Okay, I made a closed loop system with cables, and there's tension, and I'm still showing the same thing, that when I move it, I'm getting more up than I am down. About like on 2 inches of 2 7/16 inches up, there's 2 inches of down, and the tension on the cables remains equal. You know, it doesn't get loose anywhere. Now, I haven't tried it ahead of or behind yet. That's my next thing. But whenever it's straight up and down through, that's what I'm getting. A little bit extra up than down, and the cable remains even tension all the way through. Now I just did the same thing with say the horn was attached, but it's too far towards the aileron. In other words, it's not all the way over to the hinge, which reduces how much the upside is, but it's still more. The upside here is 2 1/8 of an inch, when the downside is 2 inches. And once again, the cables stay the same tautness all the way around. There's no loose cables, even when I go kind of extreme. The cables all remain the same tautness. Okay, so I did it with the points in front of the hinge towards the rear spar, and it still gives more up than down. At 2 inches of down, it's about 2 1/4. It actually went more than if it's behind it. So anyways, it's still more up than down, and the tension on the cable stays the same all the way through the travel, both directions. Even when you go kind of extreme, the tensions all stay the same. Here's the one thing I really had a quandary about, is what happens if you don't get it centered, but yet both sides are equal. For instance, this is a 1/2 inch down from this one, closer to the hinge. And of course it's the same on this side. So, and what we get is nice even movement, and the tension all stays even, because the bottom movement is more on that side, but it's also more on this side, and yet reduced on the top side on both of them. So you're still getting the same amount of movement. So as long as they're the same, that's the most important thing. And I'm not getting a lot of change. And it's still the upward aileron is slightly more movement than the down aileron. Okay, so I'm finding out that I'm also about 1/4 of an inch behind the hinge, and yeah, same on the bottom. Maybe not quite a quarter. Well, it's pretty close to 1/4. Well, I'm almost 1/4 of an inch in front of it on the opposite wing, on the left wing. Let's see what we are on the bottom. And well, on the bottom, I'm actually behind it slightly. So Well, actually to the vertical. Well, yeah, the rear spar is vertical. Okay, so, yeah. So the left wing is actually rotated forward. I'm going to try that on my mock-up. Okay, this is my last test. I hope make it a real quick one if I can. My ailerons on are perfectly centered and back behind the hinge, and on the right wing. On the left wing, my horn is actually rotated. The top one is forward a 1/4 inch, the bottom one's aft a 1/4 inch, and I wanted to see what the effect is on the mock-up, because there's not a, on the airplane, you can't feel much tension difference. So anyways, on the mock-up though, you can actually see that there's a little bit of tension difference. This here carry-through cable gets a little bit sloppier than when I go to the other side. It actually a little bit tighter. It actually keeps waving instead of just flopping like there's tension. Now I don't have a tensiometer or anything like that, but I'm just doing a snap test, you know, kind of like you do tuning a bandsaw blade, and try to go to the sound of an E string. But anyways, one thing I did notice on all of them, with every movement of the of your cables, your last movement, say you're moving to the left, this here run right here along this strut is going to be loose. You'll feel tension here, you'll feel tension here, but this here will be a little loose. So if you, after you make your, you know, roll level or make your left hand bank, just give it a nudge. Of course, you're going to be going back the other way anyways on the FP202 once you bank. But after you level off, give it just a nudge the other way, and that'll even up all the tension on these here. I also put extra keepers running up and down this. But there's so much cable, and the cable stretches. In fact, I've got to go re-tension mine because they do keep stretching. Anyways, there's a lot of forgiveness there. And as far as the up and down, because of the trailing edge being below and aft of the hinging point on the aileron, it's almost always going to be the moving up higher than it is down. But what'll exacerbate that is air pressure. Your air pressure hitting underneath is going to want to force it against the cables, and that'll also take some tension out of your cables, or put some in and take it out. But anyways, the air pressure hitting on the bottom of the down aileron tends to make it go down less, and the up, there's still a little bit of lift at the trailing, towards the trailing edge, so it's going to be easier to go up. Less, we'll say there's less air pressure. And so even though in a free state they're relatively even, when you look out there while you're flying, this here is way more up than the one that's down. There is an important argument that Algie Yates makes about the equal movement of the aileron if the horn is even and straight through the hinge. It is that it moves equally radially from that point, its starting point. Now, that's important for a center hinged aileron that's hinged in the middle, and especially in a semi-symmetrical airfoil or symmetrical airfoil. And with the FP202, I'm not so much concerned about it, and the top hinged ones, because no matter where you put the horn attach points, this here vertical from the airflow is always going to be a little more up. Plus, because of the air pressure, it's going to be a little more up because your aileron is forced up in the air. But it's important to know that if you have a center hinged and a semi-symmetrical airfoil, it's going to be, you'll have more up travel than down travel if it's in front of the hinge slightly. And it's not going to be much though. I've just proven it's not a big difference. And if it's behind it, it'll be more down than up.